So American, goddamn!
Fucking me American goddamn.
Goddamn! Wow,
I'm
that's,
the first.
I don't know if that sounds like a racist accent or what.
That's
Anyway, point being is that American Gods first season was really, really amazing. It wasn't perfect, but it was pretty goddamn amazing.
It was godly.
Yep.
It was godly.
Anyway, let's talk about it. So American Gods was a show that we got into. Thank you. We got into watching because of Brian Fuller, who did Hannibal, which was previously one of our favorite shows. Honestly, that was spectacular. So we knew whatever he did next was going to be great. And then obviously he paired with, is it Michael Green? Michael Green is the other writer, and Neil Gaiman, who wrote the books, to bring us this show, which is basically about a man who's just been released from prison who gets caught up in the war between old and new gods. And obviously that concept sounds insane, and this show is. It is pretty, it's about as insane as it gets.
It just kind of works.
It just kind of works. It just kind of works. And it's honestly like, it really is one of the most insane premises for a show ever. And when you're watching it stylistically and in terms of structure and form, it really is just out of control. But that is part of what makes it so fantastic. Like, that's why it works.
Oh, I mean, like, just for this show to exist, I mean, like, 2017 would have been a cracky year for TV.
Oh, The Leftovers, Legion, Big Little Lies, Better Call Saul,
and we've
Fargo.
already missed out on, yeah, like Fargo and Handmaid's Tale. But anyway, back to American Gods. Like, I mean, for this show just to exist, it's so goddamn exciting. And to know we've got a season 2, it's like...
People are watching it!
Yes!
That's exciting. The fact that stuff like this and Legion, people are absorbing and jumping onto and saying, you know what, it's crazy, it's out of control, but I'm game for that, is such an exciting thing. Because while we're watching movies with blockbusters just getting dumber and dumber and lazier, TV is just upping its game. When you watch a show like this that's just packed with so much art per frame, wow! So point being right now is that if you are not watching this show already, it is worth giving a try. It really is just some incredible stuff. There's great action, there's great comedy, there's great... it's all about that style, and it's all about a great set of characters, and it's just really, really intriguing. So if you haven't watched the show already, watch it. We are about to go into spoilers for the first season, because it's hard to talk about how enjoyable it was without talking about what actually happened. So that is happening right now. Get out of here if you haven't seen... Anyway, how about those gods first of all? Let me start there with
which gods?
Just all of them. The characters here, because there was such a great group of characters. It was so great that whole kind of first season, we're just building to that kind of Odin reveal. I think a lot of us were already aware that Wednesday was Odin, but finding out at the end that great I am Odin, that was just burned into my head all weekend. Like, after watching the show, I just could not, like, I was like, wow, stop saying that. But it was such like a badass moment that, like...
But just the use of gods, I mean, like, across the entire season, I think the way it kind of, like, blended religion into the show kind of, like, used religion without using religion whatsoever, or talking about religion, which
not going to offend anyone. It's not too touchy.
Which was so exciting. Yeah, it was so cool to kind of to see that, and to see like the best parts of religion for me. It
just gets to go for it. I love that.
Yeah, it was wicked.
And all these different religions and cultures as well. I think if there was one show to ever nail diversity, it was this one, without it ever making it an in-your-face thing. It's like, yes, it's about American gods, right? But these gods are coming from all over the world, so it's a way we get to show all of these cultures and what America is like, because there's so many different people. Like, everyone in America came from somewhere else. So it's such an interesting thing to work on as the basis of this show, and those introductory scenes we got at the beginning of every episode never did not floor us. Like, they were fantastic.
They were just so exciting, and after obviously seeing like Legion kind of master the use of aspect ratio and kind of bringing in the crop bars and stuff, and it was so exciting to see another show play around with aspect ratio, and goddamn, did it work really, really well, because as soon as you saw those crop bars coming at the start of the episode, you knew you were being introduced to a new god, and it was like, yes.
So exciting. And the thing is that all of those introductions, you never knew what to expect. Every week it would go in a different place, a different god. Sometimes it wasn't even the introduction of a god. It was like there was a week where the show just started that way, and it's like the present. The finale started with like them in the present day, and then talking about and I was like, what is this show, man? Like, what is this? It just has no rules.
Yeah.
There's no rules. So any show that doesn't have any rules, all our favorites basically just have rules that they break all the time. You look at The Leftovers, you look at Legion, you look at Breaking Bad. There's just no set kind of game for them to follow, and that's what we love about stuff like this.
100% for sure. And I've got to say, man, just touching on Breaking Bad as well, like Breaking Bad's use of transitions was like revolutionary. It was next level.
Next level.
This show, it started doing some crazy ass thing with transitions, and it's so good to see because when you can just blend scenes together instead of cutting to black or fading, you know, it's so much more fun. Like, there's so much more of a story you can tell as well and add to the overall arc of the show.
It's just great direction, looking at what's in the frame and going, what can I match with the next frame? I mean, again, in the final episode, the one that really stuck with us was Bilquis's, the Red Moon planet fading to her afro was just one of the most stunning things we'd ever seen. And that's the thing we've got to talk about here, because the star of the show really is the direction. Yes, the fantastic writing and fantastic dialogue gives the directors a lot to work with, but everyone that worked on this show had so much fun, and there was so much variation as well. The thing with a show like this is that there's no director you could really say no to jumping on board, because anyone can jump in and give it its own spin. I mean, obviously we had Adam Kane with episode 5 give us an episode that was frenetic and out of control and crazy and hyper fast, and then the week later he directed the next episode that was super slow and dialed back and kind of patient and had this really deliberate pacing. That is just so exciting to watch on a creative level, and there's never any, you know, there's not saying no to anything at any point. You can shoot from any angle, you can tell the story in any way you want. That's why shows like this are so creatively exciting to watch.
And you can use animation. Like, we got one of the most insane animated sequences to start an episode, and it was like, wow.
Like, back on episode 4, I think.
Yeah, like, that was just straight up beautiful. And I've got to say as well, I think what really holds this show together, like, overall looking back at it, is its kind of use of all the other areas within its technical team. So, like, its lighting department, its sound department, its costumes, its makeup, and, like, the cinematography as well. Like, all of it just comes together to create this visual look for the show. When you look at a character, you know what they're going to look like, you know how they're going to feel, how they're going to move, and like, then of course that's the actor's job as well. But what I'm saying here is, it's just like, the show just has a certain look, and it stuck to it, even though it went everywhere.
It went everywhere. It still had this...
Things on screen just burst all the time.
Really deep shadows and the darkness, and there was, you know, really interesting stuff done with contrast. And I do have to say, this is... I mean, it probably is the best looking show I've ever seen on TV. We were watching it in 4K, we were streaming it in 4K, on a 4K TV, and it just looked jaw-dropping. Like, I don't know whether shows that already look great look as good if you're watching them in 4K, but this really did look completely stunning.
And yes, of course, there was a few times where the color grading was maybe a little bit too much, but the thing is, like, it stuck to it. It didn't go kind of like all the way and then kind of back off and go, oh no, and then leave it in there.
Scene where it doesn't look right.
It's like, no, if we need this color in this scene, we're gonna do it. And it worked, because then in the overall picture, it was like, oh no, that was cool. And I remember that because of the way it looked and the way it was styled.
It's just so ballsy, and obviously you've got this soundtrack as well that was just outright crazy. I mean, Brian Reitzell also did Hannibal, one of my favorite TV soundtracks of all time. And here he just went, you know what, this show's going anywhere, so can I. And there's all these different cultures it goes through, all these different themes. So
it was so distinct. Like, we haven't had the chance to really, or I haven't had the chance to really kind of dive back into the soundtrack and listen to it outside of the show. But like, what it did inside the show is, like, you had individual themes for each character, and then the show overall, and it was just recognizable. Once you were in the world and you were listening to the soundtrack, it was magical.
And if we talk about some more kind of plot-based elements, there's a lot I think that was still left to be desired from this season. I think we had Bilquis's character that kind of tagged along and never really popped up or intersected with anyone else other than Technical Boy in the final episode, and even then, nothing came of it. We got really limited access to Mr. World. I think the threat's only expanding, but I think that's because this first season, the focus was on taking someone who is a non-believer, which is Shadow, and turning them into a believer. And I think that was such a stunning arc. It wasn't perfectly done, but I think it was really, really well handled nonetheless, and totally believable at the same time.
Because, yeah, kind of what they managed to do is, because they had no rules, of course there was going to be moments where it's like, they had no rules, and it showed. It was like, oh, okay, like, you didn't quite pull that off because you didn't have the control, and it was just completely insane. Whereas, I mean, compared to something with, like, Legion, which was completely insane, but it was controlled. It had fencing around it.
So structured by Noah Hawley.
Yeah, this didn't have that. So, I mean, as unfortunate as at times that we didn't get arcs that really were completed, or were just kind of like left to maybe season 2,
Yeah.
we did get some spectacular moments because they didn't have those rules.
Yeah, this show really definitely delivered on a moment-to-moment basis. There's so many scenes that I'd already kind of consider iconic. There's so many character pairings that were really interesting. Obviously, episode 4, the flashback episode, I think was the highlight
Easily the best
for us.
I think, yeah.
Not saying that the rest of the season wasn't great, but that episode was just like, we were stunned by how well done that was. We have a thing for flashback episodes. We have a thing for episodes where we focus on one character. But Emily Browning's performance in that episode, watching her go through the process of before she met Shadow, meeting Shadow, Shadow going to prison, her affair, her death, and going to try to find him again, was just a stunning journey. Watching that character kind of grow, evolve. That is what we want from TV. That's the thing that I think separates TV from films these days, is that so many of these kind of blockbuster mainstream movies just are focused on creating spectacle, and the characters don't matter. And the thing is, with TV, character is the spectacle. And American Gods nailed that, because you've got these larger-than-life characters, you've got these characters like Shadow that are really dialed back, and when you put them together, they just explode, and that's so exciting. Ian McShane, just want to talk about quickly.
Just stupidly good.
Stupidly good. Some of the best stuff I've ever seen from him.
Yeah, just fantastic. He kind of nailed everything he needed to do. And, you know, whether it be the way he kind of talked, the way he presented himself, his swagger, like, he just had absolutely everything down packed and made it look so easy. And every time he was on screen, your attention was completely with him. And I'm going to say, it was the same with a lot of the actors this season as well. As soon as they were on screen, it was like, yes, they're back.
Gillian
Especially
Anderson.
for me, media.
Yeah.
Like, every time it was like, okay, what's she going to do next? Because she was so unpredictable. But it was really cool to have that, to like be waiting for a character to come in, you know, into a scene instead of like waiting for a scene to happen later on.
And there really is, I mean, all the acting across the board really worked. And especially the other characters we didn't mention is Kristen Chenoweth as Easter, who waited all the way to the final episode. She was great. When Crispin Glover finally showed up as Mr. World, he was absolutely fantastic. It was such an interesting casting, and I think it really, really works. The other person whose name I still cannot remember is the African spider god.
Yes,
He was really, really fantastic, and so intense and so captivating. I think he was probably ended up being my favorite character in the end. I completely love him. So I feel terrible I don't know his name. There it is. But I just had so much fun with the show.
Yeah.
It wasn't the kind of thing that was necessarily like really immersive viewing. It was just good for us to be able to, whenever we could watch the episode, sit down, watch, and have a great time with it. And I think that's kind of what this show is about. Well, it also still got us thinking. We're still thinking about stuff. We're still all this other stuff we can dive into. There's all this stuff we can talk about. Yeah. It just works.
As insane as it is, like, it's not that hard to access and to enjoy. And, like, at first, you know, like, I mean, like, again, have my mum watching this show with us, and, like, at first she was like, what the hell am I watching? But by the end, she really enjoyed the journey she went on.
That's the hook of it. What the hell am I watching is the hook of it. So if you understand that you things aren't, I need this spoon fed to me so I know what's going on. It's okay to not know what's going on.
Yeah.
We didn't quite a fair bit, and that's the joy of this show. It was so much fun. I cannot wait for season 2. Exciting stuff ahead. Might just say as well, when the season 2 trailer does drop, as always, we will not be reacting to the trailer for it. We don't want to know what happens next. We react to first season trailers because nothing's out yet. We want to know what we're getting into. But once we're on board, there's no need to know anything about what's happening next.
Yeah, well, I mean, just think about it, guys. It's kind of stupid. Why on earth would you want to spoil a season of TV for yourself?
Yeah, you're like expecting stuff to happen.
Like, you've literally finished this episode, and then you start watching what's... No!
Anyway, just try it. I guarantee the season will be so much more rewarding if you don't watch that.
So they were our thoughts on American Gods Season 1. What an absolutely incredible season of TV. But what did you think? Let us know in the comment section below.
And while you're down there, it's probably worth hitting our subscribe button to see more stuff from us.
And don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter, all at Breaking Banner.